And we're live. Howdy, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Appreciate you guys coming in. So today we got a special guest, John from Obese to Beast. Thank you so much for coming in, John. We sure appreciate it.
No, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to meet you guys. We talked a little bit before, but I'm excited. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm always it's always fun talking to people that are kind of in the same space. You know what I mean? And but have their own journeys, right? I think that's really cool. And so, thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks so much. It was awesome. We saw you go live the other day, and that's why I reached out to you.
Yeah.
Man, I've been following John for forever, and Lindy's like, "Hey, John's going because you don't go live too much.
Not on YouTube, not super often. I do occasionally. I want to do it more, but I get very anxious because like a lot of times there'll be especially depending on what I'm talking about, there can be quite a bit of people in there, and yeah, it's a little much for me sometimes. So I stream on Twitch as well, but that's more like just video games and like hanging out, and so it's a lot less people, and so it's not as like kind of like it can be kind of overwhelming on YouTube, but yeah, so I want to stream more, but it's finding the balance of doing that while also trying to publish YouTube videos and trying to find the balance of like, and when I will be streaming, all that stuff. But
yeah, totally. Oh, and that's well, that was exciting to see you on there. And when we saw you on there, I was like, man, we should reach out to John because so we're obviously in the carnivore space. We've been doing this YouTube only like 18 months, I think, me and Lindy, and it was kind of funny. We both found each other through YouTube because we both started, I think we started our channels 4 days apart, unbeknownst
oh wow.
and it was when I was doing it, I started mine because there's a guy named Carrie Man that has a channel called Homestead How, and he just had started carnivore, and a guy had reached out to him on his channel that was his name's Bill in Alaska, and he was stuck in his house and he was over 700 pounds, and I had been and he was wondering if carnivore could help, and I had started carnivore about 6 or 7 months earlier. And it literally saved my life.
Yeah.
I was already down almost like 180 pounds in that like 6-7 month period. Wow. And I'd gotten off oxygen. Like I had one foot in the grave when I started carnivore. And so I started a YouTube channel just to tell Bill in Alaska, man, this does work. I think there's a way out for you, because I couldn't believe that this worked for me. I thought that it was going to be the end of me. And Lindy at the same time had started her channel for the exact same reason, to talk to the same guy.
Oh wait, are you really?
Yeah, so Bill's story, and I'm like, geez, I was there, and stuck in my recliner, housebound, couldn't do anything, could barely walk from my couch to the toilet to bed. That was it. And saw Bill's story, and I just cried. I I've been doing this for I think it was a year and a half at that time. I'd lost over 300 pounds, and I wanted to share my story and say, look, you can do this. So yeah, just give him a bit of hope.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was just kind of a strange twist of fate, and Lindy messaged me on the first video that I put up, which was
okay. That's what that was going to be the next question. How did you guys end up meeting?
Yeah, she's in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm in Bozeman.
Oh, okay. Are you originally from Australia?
Yeah, I'm an Aussie. Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad. I was going to ask if you're from New Zealand, because I thought I heard a little bit of a New Zealand, because I know the accents are a little bit different. And so because there's a rugby team in San Diego, which is where I'm originally from, and their head coach was, I'm pretty sure, from New Zealand. And so I would hear him talk a lot. And so I thought, I'm glad I didn't ask, because that would have looked stupid.
It's okay. My father's English and my mother's Italian. So I've got a bit of a mixed bag here.
Yeah.
But I was born
I knew it was one of the two. At least I wasn't going to say British. You know what I mean? Because a lot of Americans are like, they sound the same. And I'm like, dude, they don't sound the same. They don't sound the same.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And that's awesome. But yeah, she found me. We started doing this live stream on Sundays, 700 plus and counting down. And then I found out we're both fans of yours. We've both been watching you for a long time. And so when you popped on there the other day, because we are a carnivore channel, because that's what worked for us, and we found our way through there. But I did we wanted to reach out to you because one thing that I always loved about you, and I always watched your content, was we could just tell your heart was always in the right. Like you weren't dogmatic, you weren't selling a product, you weren't you weren't browbeating people. Like you really just got free and you wanted to spread the news. So me and Lindy definitely resonated with that.
Yeah.
And so that's the main reason that we reached out to you, because I don't know, feel very familiar with you in that fight there. So.
No, I mean, dude, your guys' story is incredible. Like the amount of weight each of you have lost. Like I'm sure you guys have heard it, right? We've all heard it, but like I feel like it's just different, right? Like the difference between, and I'm kind of curious. I know that this is your live stream and not mine, but I'm just curious, like the difference in quality of life, right? And like the between, right? Because like at my heaviest, I was like 400 pounds. I don't know exactly, right? Around there. Between that and 700, 600, 700 pounds. You know what I mean? Like what was that like? And then like what is going through your head? Like again, obviously everything is slow and it's not like this happens and then this happens, but I know like I've heard stories of some people, it's like a family member passed away or they had a serious injury and then they were bed, whatever it is, right? Like was there anything for both of you? I'm just curious that was like that. Or was it just a slow progression? Like, and then I don't know if you guys are comfortable with like sharing ages, because I know like right before we started, you were saying that you were like, I don't know, 500 at 14 or something like that. I think you said like
600, yeah,
600. So like, I don't know. I'm just so curious about like that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lindy, why don't you go first, and then I'll hop in because Lindy's got the big story. she's
no, you guys both do.
No. Yeah, no. Well, I started, my 50th birthday was kind of the aha moment for me because I lost my mother when she turned 50. She was diagnosed with cancer. And when I turned 50, I just looked at my two girls and I thought, you know, if I continue down this path, I'm not going to be here for much longer and they're going to be without a mum as well. So that was kind of my aha moment that I needed to do something. And like I mentioned before, I had gastric, like a lap band surgery 27 years prior and failed that. I tried every diet under the sun, couldn't do it. My sister lost quite a lot of weight on keto, so I tried keto for 6 months. I failed that. That was just like macros and counting, the macros, calories, all that stuff. It just did my head in, found I struggled with it. And that's when I found Carnivore. I found Dr. Ken Berry and I just thought, what a crazy, dude, promoting just eat meat and how crazy is that? And I was in such a bad frame of mind that I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose.
Might as well, right?
Yeah, I either try this and maybe there'll be a miracle and it'll work, or it will kill me a lot quicker because the way I was going, it was just a slow, painful death. So that was my mindset at the time, and I didn't want to keep putting my family through this. I was not happy with my life. I was pretty much housebound, and I would wake up every morning crying because I woke up. That's how bad life was. So yeah, tried this carnivore thing. I did struggle for a couple of months and signed up for coaching through the Steak and Butter Gang, who we mentioned before. And that was the game changer. I needed that extra help, having that accountability.
Oh yeah.
Just, every week I would sort of meet up with my coaches and I didn't want to tell them I've gone off plan or whatever. I just wanted to do the best thing because I couldn't do it for myself. So I needed to show them that I could do this. And 500 pounds down now. So yeah, it's just been amazing. And why Carnivore worked for me, it's given me that off switch that I never had.
Yeah.
I was 100% consumed by food. I'd eat and then I was wondering, where's the next meal coming? Even with the lap band, and, I would eat ice cream and chocolate because that's all that would go down. Anything solid just gets stuck and I throw up. And then I was like, oh, well, I haven't eaten. I'll just get some ice cream. At least I can get that down. And that's how I put on so much weight. Now I still struggle a little bit with the carnivore diet and having a lap band, but I kind of just eat a lot throughout the day, lots of small meals, a few bites here and there just to get the food down. And it gives me that off switch. Whenever I have anything sweet, any carbs is sweet to me, that triggers all the cravings and that sets me to spiral again. So I have to keep it very strict. But then, people say it's so restrictive. I'm like, you try being 800 pounds.
Yeah, I mean,
That is
that's
restrictive.
restrictive. Yeah, for sure. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
to me, this has given me food freedom, and I have a second chance at life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's incredible. I think that's one of the things that's interesting, right, about different diets and different ways of like losing weight. I think that there's a lot of times, like, the more rules there are, sometimes that can be helpful. It's just interesting,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes it can also be hurtful. Like, it's just very interesting, just the different approaches that everyone kind of has to take on their journey. And like,
Yeah.
clearly, the proof is in the pudding with you, right? Or the meat pudding, if you want. I don't know, that sounds kind of gross, but clearly, it's worked, right? And like, I think it's almost like having those more strict guidelines can be very, useful. Is like, so when it comes to, being carnivore and like living that lifestyle, is it like, as far as, in 5 years, right? In your head, is it like the plan is to just continue eating the same way that you are? Or is there like, because I don't really know much about, extreme weight loss and like the carnivore diet and like maintaining after, right? Like, so what's the plan? Is there a kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a timeline for like how to maintain, the weight loss. And
Yeah,
like, is
great
there,
question.
you know what I mean? Because that's what I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because like, if it truly is like, you're only eating meat, is that what you want to do forever? And like, if the answer is yes, then fine, whatever. But I'm just curious as to like what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question because a lot of people ask this. This isn't a diet for me. This is a lifestyle. This is how I need to be for the rest of my life. Occasionally, like for a birthday party or whatever, I'll go off plan. I'll treat myself to a piece of cake. That starts
Okay.
that spiral again. For me, it's dangerous, and that's why I need to keep it strict. And even things like just cheese, which is a carnivore thing. I eat a bit of cheese and I can't moderate it. It just sets those cravings and I go berserk, and then that's not going to be good for me as well. So I really I've got an addictive personality maybe. It's a comfort thing, which I've had since a child, it was had my Italian nonna whenever I was upset, come over here, Lindy, here's some chocolate, It was like food was very comforting. And then being sort of Italian, it was like you eat for celebration, you eat when you're grieving. It was like food was so important in our life. And it's deadly to me. People say just have one cookie, you need to live. Well, that one cookie, I can't stop at one. I want the whole packet, and then I want another one. It's a spiral which I have to avoid, and I'm frightened to go back to that place. And that's why I need to keep on tracking and stay strict. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not saying everybody needs to do carnivore. Everybody needs to find their way and do what works for them. And if you can have that one biscuit and stop, I applaud you. I'm jealous, congratulations. But for me, it's not something I can do. So definitely a lifestyle that I need to maintain and to feel great. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Todd? Like, how did you find like the carnivore thing? And like, I'm just kind of curious again, like going, like, what was your kind of like, I call it my click moment, right? Like when you were like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, this is how I'm going to lose weight. And I'm kind of curious for both of you again, obviously Lindy, I know you were just talking for a while, but like, where was there ever a moment where you were like, because I talk a lot about the click moment for me, right? But I also, one thing that's like for me was really huge was almost the second click moment of like, oh, I'm doing this, like, oh, I'm actually doing this, right? For me, it was when I lost 70 pounds. I don't know why, but like, I remember I thought to myself, 30 more pounds and I'll be 100 pounds. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but I was like, I've already lost 70. So if I lose 30 more, that's 100 pounds. And like, that's insane, but I remember feeling like, oh, it's happening now. Right. Sorry. I asked like 4 questions there, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. No, so weight was something I was always working on, right? My whole life. Like, there's a picture of when I was 8. I was 300 pounds when I was 300 pounds when I was 8.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was fairly tall. Share, put that up there. I was fairly tall, but that was when I was 8. I was 300 pounds. That was a 4X men's shirt. And also, I don't know, the people in my family weigh pretty heavy even for our size. Like, people would underestimate how much we weigh. So that was always kind of something we were fighting. And then, as it progressed, I always stayed around 600 pounds. Let me see, find something to kind of this, I guess will come on. Give a little idea if you haven't seen some of the pictures, but this one in the green was as big as I ever was. I was about 715 pounds. I was on home oxygen. I had congestive heart failure, and I had a little mini stroke of about 6 months before that picture, I believe it was, and from my oxygen getting so low, and I was stuck in the house for about 2.5 years, couldn't get out of a chair. And this one right here was me after I'd lost enough weight to get on the scale again, and I was down to 647 pounds. I remember that picture, and I was able to take my oxygen off long enough to get to the bathroom to get a picture, and that was me at about 640 pounds at my dad's funeral. And then that was me at exactly 13 months later. I was down to 500 pounds, and I was off oxygen. I was off all that stuff. I'm currently about 110 pounds lighter than this picture right here. I got to update my pictures. So I was just saying that because I fought weight my whole life, from time I was a kid. And what I think it was insulin resistance, because of Dr. Jason Fung's work on insulin resistant infants in the womb, and how when you have a high prevalence of insulin resistance and insulin in your blood, your body does not make energy out of fat. It prioritizes glucose only. But at any rate, I went through that. I'm an electrician by trade. And so even at 600 pounds, because I was so big growing up and through developing, I also got very strong, and I could carry it. Like, not well, back problems, ankle problems, knee problems, things like that. But I carried it, and I worked construction.
Wow.
And so it would usually get me down to around 500 pounds. But through my entire teen years and early 20s, I worked construction I floated between 490 was as light as I ever got, and usually 530, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And then when I got pulled into the office, I went right back up to 600. And I was fighting back and forth. And then 2000, my mom had a weight problem. My sister had a weight problem. My mom had gastric bypass, and it failed, and she ate through it. My sister had the lap band. It failed, and she ate through it. And so I just never did that. I never believed that the bariatric surgeries were for me, because I'd seen my sister and my mom, it failed them, and they're having complications with it. And so I would crash diet, and then I gained it all back, and I'd crash diet. I was on every calorie restrictive diet you could be on. And the only ones that ever worked was when I would just literally stop eating. Like, I would eat 17, like I remember for 17 months, I ate twice a week, and each meal was less than 1,000 calories. And I lost 300 pounds over 17 months doing that. And then I got married, and then my wife started cooking, and I gained 350 pounds back in about 9 months. I could not believe it. Yep. It came back on so hard and so fast, and I got so sick from that. And so I just was constantly on this roller coaster, up and down. And the lowest I can ever remember being is 337 pounds after that 17 months. Was as skinny as I ever got, and just pain in the butt. But then 2016, I got a divorce. My dad died. My brother died. Well, they both got really sick in 2016. They ended up dying in 2017. And after that, life was pretty terrible, and I was pretty suicidal and depressed and all these things. But I decided to I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he talks about pick one thing that you can make better and do that, to try to pull yourself out of a pit. And that was stop drinking soda for me. That's where I started. I didn't stop drinking soda. I turned it to diet soda. I went from crap soda to diet soda. And then it was shortly after that, I went from that to a high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrate, like calorie restricted weightlifter diet. I did that for 14 months. I didn't lose hardly any weight. I lost like 38 pounds or something in 14 months, and I was super miserable. And I was sick as a dog too. I couldn't breathe. And then I ended up eating some ribeyes one day at the end of that, and seared in butter because I bought the sous vide machine because I was trying to stay on the high protein diet. And I felt good, and my depression lifted for the first time with just a ribeye and seared with butter. And I didn't know why. And so I looked that up. That took me to the carnivore diet or the keto diet. Unfortunately, I went off the rail on keto because keto has all these keto snacks, like all this processed keto junk food. And that led me astray. And then in 2021, I had been going up and down, but really wasn't getting anywhere. I was losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight on the keto thing. And I got COVID. And my buddy, a friend of mine, got COVID right at the same time, about a week before I did. And he went in the hospital and he died at 38. And so I had it, and I was like, I'm not going in the hospital. So I stayed home. My sister helped me with home treatments. I was every bit of 650 pounds at the time. Pretty sick. And I got COVID really bad. I just survived it and by the skin of my teeth. But the damage had caused congestive heart failure. So I gained 85 pounds of fluid in 3 weeks and got over 700 pounds because my heart stopped beating very hard enough to get the fluid out of my blood. So my body, I just started swelling up. I got all this tons of fluid on me. That's when my lungs were shutting down. I spent a long time trying to get the fluid off, ended up having what they believe is a mini stroke because they couldn't put me in the MRI machine to confirm it. But they said with all the symptoms and how I couldn't recall words and how my memory wasn't working and some nerve function that had gone down, muscle function, that they thought I had a mini stroke. Kept me in the hospital for 11 days, getting fluid off me. They pulled like 58 pounds of fluid off me and sent me home with oxygen. They said, well, your heart's damaged, your lungs are damaged. You got to be on 6 liters of home oxygen. You got to sleep with a CPAP, and here's 5 new prescription medications, and you have to meet with a bunch of specialists. You have to meet with pulmonologists and a cardiologist, and they just gave me the whole list. Well, I'd seen my dad and brother go through that, and they just took drugs until they died. That's kind of what we just went through. So I was just fed up, and I threw all that in the garbage. I didn't take any of the medications. I used the oxygen. I did take the furosemide, which was the fluid pill, because I was having a massive fluid problem. Like I could gain and lose 30 pounds in a 24-hour period of just fluid, like building up so bad. And I did that, but I started carnivore, and I did what was called BBB&E because by this time I'd been researching it. And I was like, I'm just throwing a Hail Mary and I'm putting it all in this. I started carnivore, and BBB&E is beef, butter, bacon, eggs, salt, water. And that's all you eat. And so that's what I did. And that flipped everything around. Like I started doing what exercise I could in my chair, but mainly breathing exercises because my lungs were so messed up. And started doing that. And within about 6 or 7 months, I was down almost 200 pounds. I was and granted, a ton of it was fluid, right? A ton of it was fluid from the congestive heart failure. But the crazy parts were that I was on 6 liters of oxygen. They said that I'd be on for forever. And I had congestive heart failure. And I had a resting heart rate of 107 beats a minute while sitting in a chair. And I had my oxygen was down to 88% saturation. And then at 6 months later, I was off oxygen. and my oxygen saturation was 96%, and my resting heart rate was down to 68 beats a minute.
Wow.
And I was finally had color. My neuropathy was going away in my feet. I had circulation again, and I started moving. And that's when I started realizing that this thing is working. And that was kind of my aha moment. Everything was just a Hail Mary. Like, I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I'd tried every diet. I felt like I'd done everything and nothing else had worked. But it wasn't even just losing the weight. It was just how I felt. I felt so much stronger. I felt so much more mental relief from anxiety and depression. I was breathing so much better. And even more so, I got what Lindy coined as the off switch. For the first time in my life, that noise in my head shut off. And I had perfect appetite control. Like, I had leptin sensitivity, like, for the first time in my life, I feel like, you know. And so that was where it started for me. And that was the aha moment. And then, you know, going forward, it took another 21 months to lose another 130 pounds, but I also gained a bunch of muscle, you know, and I got healed so much. Like, I had terrible lymphedema. I had my right calf was 35.5 inches in diameter, and my left calf was 36 inches in diameter with impacted lymph fluid and tissue, and just all this stuff. And so I had a lot of healing to do and a lot of that stuff to take up. But what was crazy is I went from not being able to stand up for 90 seconds, I couldn't breathe, to within 6 months being able to walk again, within a year getting my driver's license back. And now, you know, 6 months ago, I built a gym in my garage, and now I can lift and do all those things. I mean, it's literally just turned it around. And so we started making videos, and it's just changed the way that I think about everything now, because, and that's what I would love to talk about, is because we're not, you know, I know I asked you the other day in your live stream what you thought about the carnivore diet. And I saw you kind of go, oh, I don't want to crap on this guy's parade type of thing. But also, you know, because I know it's a super controversial diet, and there's not a lot known about it, and I get all that. But you did say something where you said, I hate that it almost gets a little culty, and I agree with you. Like, we totally agree that, you know, each person's an N equals 1 experiment, and they need to find their own path out of this thing. But we want to talk about what really worked for us, because we did try. I mean, look, if a calorie restricted diet would have worked for me, I'd be preaching about the calorie restricted diet right now. If any of those would have got me through that, I would have. But, you know, this one, and just like you said when we were off air here a little bit ago, that so many people, you know, that you wanted to show people that you were that guy that also couldn't do it and didn't think there was a way out and any of those things. And there was. We get so many people to say, you guys have so much resolve and so much, you know, willpower. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have no willpower. I had I didn't have any willpower. I was like the most, you know, I was the least likely to come out of this of any person you probably ever known. And I did. And that's why this is so exciting to me, because it really was an answer to prayer. And it really did give me a second shot at being here, because I don't think I would be here. I know I wouldn't be here right now if I had to make the turn, you know?
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, obviously, like, your guys' stories are your stories, right? And like, those are the things that you experienced. And I think that, like, trying to discredit that would be silly, obviously. So that's not, like, you know, not something that I would ever try and do. When it comes to, you know, like, when you're on my live stream and people were asking about it, the reason I try not to really talk about other types of diets, like keto, carnivore, I don't know, freaking Atkins diet, whatever, because, like, there's always going to be people that had their life changed by that thing. Right. And so, like, they're going to feel a sense of, like, this is the thing that worked for me. And that's the thing that's important to me, is that, like, that's the thing that worked for you. Right. And I guess you could say frustrated when people make the claim that this is what everyone has to do. Right. And if you don't do it this way, you are doing it wrong, right? When in reality, like the thing that works for you, that's the thing that you should be doing, right? Like, and like, you know, through, I guess you would say whatever I preach is like the calories in, calories out, you know, the thermodynamic laws of thermodynamic diet. I don't even know what I would call it, right? Like calorie restriction, I guess. Like, you know, I just try and show, like, my goal, like with, you know, anyone that I'm working with or anything like that, right, is I want people to find for them the path of least resistance to where they're able to lose weight and enjoy life as much as possible, right? And like, it's about finding that balance because like you said, right, Todd, you lost, you know, hundreds of pounds in a very short amount of time, but you hated it. Like it was not fun, right? And then same thing, you lost not as much weight in a long period of time and you still hated that, right? Like, so that obviously wasn't the answer, right? And so it's like, my goal is for people to find the thing that works for them, that obviously gets them to the things that they want to do, the goals that they have, but also lets them enjoy life. Because like for me, what I say, like when I lost my weight, the reason that I did it was because I wanted to have a better quality of life. Right. And like, that's the goal that I think most people have when they, especially if they have a significant amount of weight to lose, right? They want to have a better quality of life. They want to live and not exist. Right. That's a term that I say a lot. I was just existing when I was at my heaviest. Right. I was like ready to, you know, I used to have these thoughts. Oh, I'm definitely going to be dead before I'm 30. Right. I'm 32 now. So, you know, praise the Lord, we're still alive. But like, I was the same thing, right? I was overweight my entire life. I was always big, got bigger and bigger and bigger, bigger. I just felt like it was never ending. Every year when I was going to school, bigger shirt size, bigger pant size, you know, like it's just how it was, you know, like, and so it just felt like I'm just going to continue gaining weight, right? And so like the quality of my life was not, I didn't have much, right? And like there were so many things I wanted to try that I didn't try because my size got in the way, right? And so like my goal is to help people find the diet and the lifestyle really that gets them to, obviously most people I'm working with want to lose weight. So that's obviously what we're focused on, but lose weight in a way that they can still enjoy their life, right? And feel like they're not so like restricted, because a lot of people I work with, they've tried the really restrictive diets and they were like, I couldn't do it. Like, I just felt like I was in, a prison that they had kind of made for themselves. Right. And so it's like, again, everyone's different. And it's just the reason that a lot of times I get very like, oh God, here we go. Like when people ask about, especially, I mean, let's be real. Your name is the Carnivore Cure. And then you say, what do you think about carnivore? And I'm like, oh God, dude. Oh no. Especially because like most of my interactions with carnivore people online are very much so like, I can't believe you ate that. I can't believe you telling people to eat blueberries. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not trying to hurt anyone here. And so it's just like, I'm not trying, like, I'm trying to share how I feel. I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. Right. But it's just like, I think I am curious. I'm not trying to dodge the question, but like, this is a question I wanted to ask when we first started talking, was like, how do you guys feel about the way that carnivore is represented on, I guess, mainly social media? Because I guess that's probably where it's most prevalent. Like, because as someone that's outside there, right? I'm outside of the carnivore bubble or whatever you want to call it, right? When I think about it, I immediately am thinking about the very viral posts of like people like straight up eating like a stick of butter, right? And like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, obviously that's like, whoa, that's like, like, okay, I don't know if like, that's a little weird, and then they're like in the store, like, this is terrible, throw it away. This is what you need to eat. And then they rip the bacon open and just start eating it. Right. Okay. I've never seen that actually, but like, like that kind of stuff where it's like, I think the goal is to shock people. Right. And then get people, but like, as people that seem not like that, like, does that affect you guys? Like,
well,
what is that like?
That's such a perfect question. I'm so happy you asked it. So what's funny is one of the people that are most known for eating a stick of butter is called Bella, the steak and butter gal. Mm-hmm. And she's a very good friend of ours, actually. We she's in the steak and butter gang. But what's really funny about that? So obviously, a lot of that is just, but it's YouTube and social media, flair. It's not what but she does legitimately. Like, I know her very, very well. I was at her wedding just a few months ago, in fact. And she does literally eat a stick of butter, and she's not like, now it's become kind of her trademark, and that's why it's dawned that way, But honestly, she was a vegan for 7 years, and she lost all of her hormones, and she lost her period and stuff. And it's the butter, that saturated fat, that butter, that healed her hormones, and it healed her hormones. It's healed her skin disease, and that's why she was 100% on board. And she's 6 or 7 years carnivore now, and been doing that for 6 or 7 years. But as far as that goes, so the flip side of Bella that nobody knows about is that, she runs the steak and butter gang, which we're a part of. And all the people that come in there, and it is, I think, the largest online carnivore community online. And it literally, everybody, we tell the same thing. You are an N equals 1. There's no carnivore police here. If you're ketovore, carnivore, if you have fruit in your diet, like, that's you, because you got to figure out what works for you. Like, we're not a dogmatic group. We do not believe in that. And that's why I really want to have this conversation with you too, because I know that you're not, from watching you. And I'm like, oh, we'll have a good conversation where we can just talk about this out in the open. But it definitely, there is a ton of flair of all that nonsense to push videos into, even more so. I'm talking about all the dogmatic, you're wrong if you're not doing this, you're wrong if you're not doing that. And I find that in all walks of the diet culture, whether it be veganism or carnivore or calorie restrictive or, whatever, paleo, whatever. Yeah. There's a subgroup of each one of those groups that's just like going to come at you if you're not doing things exactly like they believe, that they do it. But the reality of it is I think that all these things end up getting pushed too harshly. And also, I think that all of them, when that happens, I think it turns them all into this realm of fad diet, which is the thing that I hate the most, because we should all be on the same team, which is, one, that we understand that highly processed, addictive foods that are hyper palatable, that are void of nutrients, are the enemy. That's what's making everybody sick. And that there are big players in the game, such as big food and big pharma, that don't mind us being sick and making money off of us. And I think we all have that common enemy, just to be happy and be healthy and be free from that. And that's what I think we all really should be focusing on and understand. We should be able to laugh at ourselves. Like, I can definitely laugh at the irony of a 400-pound guy like myself eating butter and saturated fat and bacon, and everybody going, this guy's going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you see it from your side? What do you see from it?
Dude, okay. I'm just going to be honest and, like, please, 100%. People, I'm just the boy. All right. Do not crucify me, please. But, like, it's interesting because, like, the story you said about, I think your name was Lori, right? Or the Bella. So where did I get Lori? Oh, I read someone's name in the chat. What's up, Lori? Shout out to you. But from Bella, right? Like, I was vegan and it ruined my health. It's just like, I've heard that story on the other side too. I was carnivore and it ruined my health. And then I went vegan and now everything is better. And I was this, and then I stopped, and now everything is better. And now all the content I make is about how that thing is evil and everyone should avoid it and they should do this thing, right? And it's like, when a huge portion of your content, are we allowed to cuss on here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is saying fuck that thing because it's evil and they're trying to make you die.
Right.
So buy this thing instead.
Right.
It's way better for you. I'm always like,
yep.
There's almost always a reason for that. And so that's why I just get very standoffish, I guess, when people are very like, I find it strange, and this is just, you guys are great. Okay. So I just want to put that out there. And I'm sure everyone in chat is very nice.
You do not have to be careful here, man.
But I find it strange when a diet becomes your identity, because life is so much more than the food you're eating, and like who you are as a person is defined by so much more than the food you are eating. Yes. Right. And I guess you could say the same thing. I mean, your name is Obese the Beast, brother. What are you talking about? Right. And so fair enough, but like,
right. But you're not your handle either. Like you picked that name in a whim. Like you got me dead rights on the Carnivore Cure. That's one thing that I've regretted since I did it, because it puts me in a box. And I was excited about carnivore. And when I made that name, and I was like wanting to get the message out. So I made the name. And now what I view carnivore as is it's a animal-based elimination diet that allows you to get free from any addictions and cravings. Because I got some stuff to tell you about that side of things that I don't think people understand, just from my perspective, but gets you free from it. And then as your own N=1 experiment, what we do is we add things back in one at a time and see what it does to us. And like, for instance, black pepper makes me have a fit. I have a inflammation response, certain vegetables and stuff, and certain ones don't. But no, I totally get it. And you named yourself Beast the Beast, but you didn't mean to put yourself in a box and make
I just thought it sounded good.
Right. And
I was like 20. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So like, it's weird, man. Like I don't like, it's not like I'm like up at night thinking about this stuff and I'm like, I'm going to get them, I'm just always like, for me, the goal is I want people to, have as much freedom in their life as possible. Right. And so like, I just worry about, I've heard many stories, right, of people being like, you guys were talking about, you guys were talking about like keto, right? I did keto I think I've even seen people in chat. I know maybe I shouldn't be reading chat, but I can't help it. But like, people in chat, I did keto for this amount of time. And then I wasn't able to continue doing it and I gained a lot of weight. Right. And like, that's one of the things that like, whenever I'm working with someone or whatever, is I like to talk about a lot of people, they think that they failed a diet, right? Oh, I failed Weight Watchers, I failed Atkins, I failed whatever. When in reality, like the way I like to think of it is like that diet failed you. That diet was not going to work for you. And so like, you can't think that you failed it, because I mean, I'm sure you guys have talked about this a lot, right? But like it's such a common cycle that happens with people that are trying to lose weight, is you get on this new diet, whatever it is. I'm sure that, a lot of people that are carnivore don't want to call it that. Okay. I'm not trying to say that, but like whatever, insert whatever diet, right? They lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, maybe. Right. And then they end up gaining the weight back because they're not able to do it anymore. And then they think to themselves, oh man, I just need to get back on that thing again. When in reality, like that's the problem, right? Like it wasn't going to work for you like long term. And that's the thing that like one of my favorite words, right? I say it all the time, is sustainability. Find something that you can do for the rest of your life, right? That is the most important thing. Like whenever I'm working with a client, I'm not trying to promote it. It's completely full. It's not like this isn't a promo, but like I call it foundations, right? Because like it's about building a strong foundation for someone to be able to no longer need me as a coach, right? Like the goal is after we're done working together, you don't need me anymore. Like I don't want, like you should have all the information and off you go. You're on your own, right? You have the tools, right? And so the goal, I think, is to help someone so they can make better decisions in the future, right? And so it's just like a lot of times I feel like these diets, when they're focused on what you can't have, it's really hard to like build a strong foundation and like a relationship with food and like the real world, right? Because the real world has birthday parties, it has events, it has Christmas, it has Thanksgiving in America, it has all of these other things that are going on that, of course, a lot of them are focused around food. a whole nother conversation if that's should be how it is, you know what I mean? But like, that is real life, right? And so it's like, for me, I've just seen so many people see great results on whatever it is, but then they end up gaining the weight back, and it just perpetuates this really harmful for them cycle. And, you know, with everything I'm saying, I'm not saying I have all the answers and that like anyone I've ever talked to has like, you know, lost all the weight. You guys both said that you were following me for a long time, and apparently, you know, I didn't help, you know what I mean? So it's not like I'm sitting here saying like I'm the only one that has all the answers. But what a lot of times with these more extreme kind of like diets, or, you know, like carnivore, you know, the more extreme maybe carnivore people, or even veganism, you could use that, right? The raw, the maybe I shouldn't say their name, but like the Freelies of the world that are like raw vegans, or like the, you know, whatever. It's like a lot of times they will say, no, this is the answer for everyone. And like this, oh, I can't believe what they're eating. See, I'm going to make a video and break down everything they're eating and say that they should have actually had this thing, when it's just like, I just clearly, like, if someone is being vegan, like, do you really think they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to be vegan anymore, I'm just going to eat steak now? Again, yes, that happens, of course, you know, we see that, but like in reality, is that going to happen? You know, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, but
there's a lot of fun stuff to unpack there,
it's just, you know, these are things that I think a lot about. And, you know, I'm not sitting here saying I have all the answers, but I also like, I just want people to find what works for them. And I feel like where we are in just the digital age in the world, right, is there's so much information, but it's almost like it's a blessing and a curse, right? Because you can find people that will say, oh, just eat meat, that's it. And then you can find people that don't even cook your vegetables, and, you know, the raw vegans of the world, right? Just eat raw fruit, and that's the answer. And then it's like, it feels really, really hard as someone that I like to consider myself relatively moderate in the way of like diet and exercise and nutrition. I try and preach a very like chill, like, let's like make this as, and people might not like that, right? But like, let's make this as easy for you as possible so that you can continue doing it forever, right? But that's not very easy to promote on social media, you know? Like, I can't sit there and be like, hey, open this butter. Hey, guess what? You should have a little bit of this. It's okay. You don't need to have the whole thing, but like a little bit's okay. You know what I mean? Like, that video is not going to do very well. And so it's like, it's very weird, I guess, being in like with like how social media is now, as someone that considers themselves kind of like in the middle of the whole, like, I just try and be, hey man, you can do that if you want, but like, you don't have to, you know, you could also, it's just like, people are like, I don't know, it's kind of boring. I want to watch the person like shove a cucumber down their throat or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is. And so it feels like a lot of these more extreme diets and stuff, they almost thrive on that
shock factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. No, I 100%. And that's what gets people to click on them. But then behind that, and the reality is what you're saying, you got to live in this day-to-day reality, and you got to find out what works for you and what's sustainable and what mindset you have to take. And so, there's a lot of great things that you hit on that we totally agree on. And one of them is that foundation. Like, this can't, like, first of all, I hate the word even diet, because it's like, I think dieting is a cancer in itself, because I don't think that we should be dieting. We should be finding what's sustainable, which is one of the reasons that I do feel that carnivore, one of carnivore strengths is it is one of the more, it's so crazy when people are going carnivores. To me, when they go carnivore is dangerous because it hasn't ever been tested. And it's like, well, actually, we've been eating meat as long as we've been, been a species. Like it has been tested, and there's been, like, I don't know what it's like on your end of the world, but right now on the carnivore side of the world, the bad science on cholesterol being bad for you is like the most ridiculous thing. Like, that's been debunked so many times and proven absolutely ridiculously false that we get a little annoyed when people keep throwing the cholesterol thing in our face, because cholesterol, I mean, Ansel Keys and the 7-country study that started the whole cholesterol cholesterol hypothesis was a bad science from day one, and it's been debunked. It's even been debunked in the American Heart Association, their own write-up in their journal. Like there's a lot of cholesterol that's good for you, and that's not the main factor in heart disease by any means. In fact, our bodies make cholesterol. So there's little things like that, but that's beside the point. People can go, I mean, that's so easily searchable that you can go find it, for anybody can go find it for themselves and see what's really going on there. But what's interesting, what I wanted to talk about, because I know, like, I want to talk about calories in, calories out. I really do. This is my favorite topic because I believe that for so very long, and I see it so different now. And I would never make the argument that you won't lose weight if you restrict calories. You absolutely will lose weight if you restrict calories. You absolutely will lose weight if you burn more calories than you consume. Like, your body's going to have less mass for sure. But to me, there's several things about one as a species, and you could say for any number of reasons. You could say in the modern era, we don't move as much or burn as many calories or have to fight for food or any of those things, and which are, I think some of those are very valid. But we didn't track calories, we didn't count macros, and people were very healthy when we were just eating very, when our diet was it had a very narrow window. I mean, people were eating ancestrally appropriate for and they might have some fruit, some berries, but they didn't have a grocery store with all of the fruits and berries and those things. But they were eating mostly meat products, especially in the winter, animal products, especially in the winter. And that's exactly what so many carnivores have found, is that it's not that calories don't have any effect on you and they don't matter. But what we find on carnivore is that when you nourish the body with saturated fats and protein and meat, your body's signaling and your leptin responses and your hormones like self-regulate your size, and you automatically are going in a healthier way. And it's even kind of crazy because it's like you can gain muscle and lose body fat, and you have a composition change where you just become stronger and leaner while burning the fat off, which is a little bit different, even in a ridiculous calorie surplus, so we see that quite often. And I want to put this out there. This is what I feel, and this is one of the things that woke me up, was I really think that by putting all the onus on the calories is big food propaganda, because they want us to look at us as the problem, that we can't regulate hyperpalatable food that was built to be addictive and to be overconsumed. And if they can say, you should be able to moderate this hyperpalatable Chick-fil-A sandwich that's got 700 chemicals in it, because you should have the willpower to say when, and if you can't, and if your hormones are screwed up because of it and you get addicted to it and you eat too much of it, that's on you. And I've always felt, I always bought into that for forever, because they'd say, well, if you're addicted to those addictive sandwiches and those addicted junk foods and those addictive sodas that these companies spend billions of dollars on figuring out how to make that addictive, and if you can't regulate those, there's something wrong with you. Because if we kind of got away from that and we started looking closer into the quality of the food that we're eating, and how these foods have become not foods, but drugs or products that are being pushed, and they're even demonizing the things that's personally set me and Lindy free. They're telling us that red meat's bad, cholesterol's bad, all these things, when they're literally the thing that set us free from our addictions. I think that is a big food propaganda that they're trying to keep us from going after the poison that they're putting on the shelves constantly, and saying, well, you don't have to eat it, you should be able to moderate it. And it's kind of keeping us trapped in a way, kind of chasing our tail, chasing this thing that we're basically we're dealing in this cycle of addiction without removing the catalyst of the addiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting. I'm always a little hesitant when it's like, oh, big food company, big pharma is the problem, because it's like, when it comes to like big food, who, like, I don't think they're all working together to conspire against people. I think it's just a product of, oh my God, a product of capitalism. Like, you know, like it's not like they're like, okay, we're going to all meet together and we are going to figure out how to make everyone fat. All right. And kill them. That's just not, I don't think that way. You know, I think that it's just life has happened the way that it has. And we've gotten to the point where we are based on the previous, you know, the past, and like things have just kind of, a decision was made, not necessarily they were all connected. And it was like all this whole thing that was all together trying to make it. So I think it's just a sad fact that we're in the position that we are, more than like a intentional decision. You know, that's the way I like to think of it, because I think thinking the other way, I don't know. I struggle to believe that that's really the case. I think it's just is what it is. And it's like, we have to navigate the world that we're in the best that we can. Right. And so for everyone that's going to be different, I think that with carnivore, I think that it can work for a lot of people, but I also think there's a lot of people that it can't work for. Like people that can't afford it, right? Like people that maybe they're in a multi-family household. There's a lot of people that rely on them to make their food. Like they're not going to only eat bacon too, right? And so I think that that's why I think like there's a specific person that carnivore can work for. And like specific diets like that, especially like the ones that are a little bit more, I don't want to say restrictive, but they have more rules, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. I don't know what term would be the correct term, right? But there's just less things that you can do. There's more things you have to worry about, right? And so I think it's like that's a big part of why I think like these things work for certain people, but there's also so many people that it's just not realistic, right? And so it's like, again, that's why these things are great. Like these conversations are great because, you know, like, but yeah, so sorry, I got off topic, but like, you know, with the whole, like, yes, I obviously I agree that these, you know, like the Oreo, you know, company is like, obviously they want people to eat more Oreos, you know what I mean? Right. Like, and so they are going to create Oreos that taste as good as possible. And like, it is unbelievably hard if you are someone that struggles with the regulation to be like, okay, I've had 4 Oreos. That's enough. You know what I mean? Like that's not happening. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not happening. Right. And so it's like, I think it's about like, I don't know. I'm the least kind of conspiracy person there is, if I'm being completely honest. So like I'm just the, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but like, I'm very like, and he's like, isn't that weird? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Things happen, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it just is what it is. And so like, I try to, I think a lot of times it can be really fun to like, oh, I'm going to figure out the reason that this all happened. But I think a lot of times it's just things happen, man. Like, I don't know, like life, you know,
for sure. But like, I want to take you down a little point of view of mine, what changed this, right? You know, because I've been seeing doctors and therapists and psychologists since I was a kid, trying, you know, because the doctors would say, well, you should be able to regulate these things. So, you know, there must be something hormonally wrong. They would give me, you know, medications. They would send me off and do these things. They'd set me up with dietitians who would put me on calorie restrictive diets, and they'd put me on a, you know, low fat, moderate protein, you know, moderate high fiber you know, like diet, and go through these rounds, right? And then when that didn't work, they said, well, it must be something psychological, right? And so then I would sit there and they would bring in these psychologists talking to me about, you know, maybe I'm eating to fix my feelings and all these things. And so for quite literally over 20 years, I went down this rabbit hole, and they would tell me that, well, you're an addict, you have an addictive, you know, behaviors and tendencies, which I was addicted to gambling for 15 years. It almost destroyed me. I was addicted to caffeine. I was addicted to food. I was addicted to nicotine. Right. And here's what blew my mind, John. This is what's got me thinking this way, is that I'm not even joking. I suffered with depression for 3 decades with suicidal ideation. Like there's more than once. It's an absolute miracle that I'm still here. And I never talked to anybody about it. I talked to a therapist one time about it, but then they were going to mandate that I had to be, they talked about mandating that they had to take custody of things. And so I never talked about that again in a few things. But 6 weeks on carnivore and the anxiety and the depression completely lifted. And I couldn't believe that happened. But I kid you not, that gambling addiction that I'd had for 15 years, that completely left when my hormones healed. And then 10 months, 26 days into carnivore, I quit a 26-year nicotine habit, never had one craving, and never went back to it.
Yeah.
And my addictive tendencies and my compulsive nature just completely melted away. And so this idea that here's what I'm saying is, they keep telling me, and my whole life they told me that it was atypical for me to not be able to moderate food. And now I just carnivore natural products that our ancestors probably ate 90% of, and I moderate those perfectly fine. But I think that it is a convenient argument for those that are selling the addictive foods to tell us that it is atypical to not be able to moderate foods that are engineered and designed to be addictive. I think that being that 74% of the population is obese or overweight, and 88% of the population is metabolically, sick or imbalanced. And that's according to Ben Bickman and Gary Taub and Dr. Robert Lustig. If that's the case, they make the case that the only way that you can affect that kind of shift in such a large population is through a food environment shift. You have to change the environment to be able to, to have any kind of effect on that large of a percentage of a large population. And so the fact that they're exactly going after red meat, ruminant animals, saturated fat, and those type of things, and trying to take it out of the diet, and those are the things that literally have healed my addictive personality, healed my body, healed Lindy, have caused this dramatic result. I mean, Lindy had bariatric surgery and still got up to 800 pounds, and then she does carnivore, loses over 500 pounds in 3 years. And the fact that those things that the same big food people that say you should be able to moderate their foods are also paying for the studies, which this is true. You can look it up. The studies that have been done on red meat, the epidemiology studies, and the people that are going after ruminant animals, red meat, cholesterol, are the same people that are selling us these highly addictive foods that are paying for those studies. I don't think that it's an accident. And I don't think if a dumb electrician in Montana can finally stumble onto it and become free from it, and it happens to be just the exact recipe of the things that they are trying to keep from us, I think there's something worth taking a look at, and I 100% agree with you, by the way, that I don't think that there's 5 guys in a room wringing their hands going, this is how we're going to make everybody sick. I think it is capitalism. I think that over a period of time, it evolved into, hey, let's all put our money into figuring out what's going to make people buy more of this product and what's going to make them eat more of it. And they don't really have our well-being in mind. But I do think at a certain point it got to, well, we know that our food's causing these problems, but it's a money-making son of a gun. So we need to lobby and get people on our side and pay for these studies that are going to show that if they just stop eating as many calories, then it puts the onus on the people. And we say, well, you have a, it's in your genes. You have, undealt with childhood trauma, which some people do for sure. I'm not saying that that's not a thing. I'm just saying they kick that, they kick that can down the road to all these other spots. And it's almost like we never look directly at the food, and we never put like to me, it's like, how about we take out all the hyper palatable, highly addictive garbage with the seed oils and the red dyes and all the junk, get that out of the equation, and then whatever's left we can figure out about regulating, restricting, regulating, or using therapy to get around. But I really think the elephant, the 9,000 pound elephant in the room is is the addictive foods that have changed our food environment that's causing this to be an apple, the vast majority. I mean, right now you're atypical if you're not sick and overweight. And that's a really sad place that we've let our population get to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I mean, I said that kind of, how I feel. I think that, when it comes to, big food and the connection with big pharma, I struggle to like see them as one entity. I think that they're, just the term big food, big pharma, I feel like a lot of times it just ends up being this monolith. And I just don't think that there's any like governing body that you can point at, like that's the reason they are at fault. I think that it's, for me personally, I don't like to think that way. And I feel it's dangerous for myself because it ends up becoming like black and white, like, oh, that's the enemy and that's who needs to be stopped. I think it's just more nuanced than that. There's a lot of things that I'm not, and I don't claim to have all the answers, so I can't sit here and be like, no, this is actually what it is. Cause I don't know. Like, and maybe people will be like, see, that's why he's an idiot, but it's just like, I'm just being honest, and I'm sharing from my personal experience because,
for sure.
And like, I understand where you're coming from and I completely can, like, dude, I can't even imagine how both of you, hi, Lindy. It's good to see you. I know you haven't really said much, but like how both of you must feel, right? You guys have literally conquered so much. You guys literally, right, have a second chance at life, both of you, right? Like, so like, of course, you are going to be passionate and you are going to, feel the way that you feel and, have like, feel like, man, I was able to do this. And like, you want to, like, clearly you're searching, trying to find like, how can we help as many people as possible? And so like, I totally understand like the passion right behind it. And I just like, for me, of course, I'm passionate as well. And I want to help change as much as possible as well. Right. And so it's like, I want to find the answers. For me, I just feel that it's a little bit more nuanced than, this is the problem. And what we have to do is like, we just take all of the unhealthy food out. And I'm just like, okay, well, like, that's not going to happen. So, and maybe people are like, well, that's the problem. We need to get back to like, but I just don't think that will ever actually happen. And so like, I want to base what I'm trying to do and the things that I want to change and again, I mean this with respect, in reality, right? Of like, what can actually happen? Because like, yes, of course, it would be fantastic if we can get rid of all the candies and the Mars Corporation and like, Coca-Cola and like all of that. Well, I don't know. Cause I know, don't get mad at me, everyone. I love Coke Zero, right? But like, so I don't know if I'd want to get rid of that. But like, yes, that would be great if we could live in a world where this thing's never existed. But like, for me, I'm like, that isn't ever going to happen, especially like you were saying, there's so much money in this stuff, right? Like there's just zero chance. So it's like, for me, the way I think is like, let me operate in like, what can I actually do about helping as many people as possible, right? And for me, I've realized what I can do is not try and fight big pharma, big food, big whoever, it's like, I can share my story and try and talk about what we can do as individuals that maybe you don't have much money, maybe you don't have much time, like, and talk about those things, because I feel like that is the most I can do with what I know. And like, because again, I don't know what's going on behind these closed doors. Right. And so I don't even try to, it just, for me, it doesn't even feel like worth my time and energy to really worry about that. And, I'm sure there's plenty of people that that's what they focus on. That's great. Right. But like, that's just not what I focus on. Right. Like, I'm like, let's focus on what I can actually do. Right. And so, yeah.
So I love that. But what I got to say, I'm not focused on big farm, like going after big pharma or big food. Like I call them out because I don't like them, but I don't like, that's not where my focus is at. My real reason for coming to that and what I want to for you to know about that the most is because it set my head free from, that was the first time that I finally went, when I finally realized that it was the first time that I was like, well, maybe I'm not 100% the only problem here. Like up until that time, I thought I was broken. I thought I was unfixable. I thought that I was going to be an addict for forever. That's what the psychologist said. Once an addict, always an addict. You can never get over these addictions. You have to learn how to manage them. And that's a lot of weight with like no hope of a window at the other end. Right. But it was when and to your exact point, you said this twice, and I 100% understand what you mean, but I want to give you a perspective on this from where I see it. When you say, I want to do something in reality that I can actually do that's going to change it, that's my biggest problem with calorie restrictive messages, because that has been the message for pretty much as long as we've been going after saturated fat, right? And under that message, 74% of the Earth's population has gotten overweight and obese, because I think it's calories. Like if you and me were a robot and I could get into John's PCU and I could type a new algorithm and say, hey, you're just going to forever eat into this calorie deficit, for sure you would weigh a certain amount less. It would be effective. But in reality, taking all these people that have emotions and struggles and they use food to fix their hormones and to feel something when they're feeling dead inside and all these things, that doesn't pan out on paper. And under that message, everybody's gotten just trapped, And so that's why I'm not saying this because I think I'm going to shut down Coca-Cola or something. What I'm saying is that if we realize for just a second that yes, calories matter, but there's a way that maybe we can eat intuitively and heal our hormones and heal our body and nourish our body, that we no longer have to have a disordered way of eating. Like it's so interesting because people think that what I'm doing is restrictive. I can't tell you how free I feel. I'm not a gambling addict anymore. I'm not a sugar addict anymore. I'm not a caffeine addict. I have nothing that rules my life. And I don't even have cravings. I get no cravings. And I 100% attribute to that, to the specifically animal fats healing my hormones. Like for instance, when I came into carnivore, my total testosterone was 137. Like the lowest score my doctor that I went to see, my hormone doctor, had seen. And I've gotten it up to just under 600 just by eating egg yolks because it has DHEA in it. And I feel like $1 million, And so I had and I understand that I'm an extreme. I'm on one side of the extreme example of the bell curve here, but I was able to heal those things. And those things for me, those compulsive natures, the anxiety, the depression, the addictive tendencies, and all those things, they were my body trying to call out for nutrients. And I kept giving it the wrong stuff that didn't have the amino acids and the fats and all those things. And I was in such an addictive place that I could not do what they would call a well-balanced calorie restrictive diet without just going off the rails. But this satiated me, and it got my fasted insulin level so low that I was able to finally hear leptin signals again I think for the first time I've ever heard them in my life. And I had a satiety hormone, and it just shut all the noise off in my head. And when that noise shut off, it was like the anxiety went away for the first time in my life. And that is literally why I said, I got to tell everybody about this, because this was the first time in my life that I was able to control what I eat without feeling like I was white knuckling, hanging on the side of a building by the skin of my teeth. And it wasn't when I was, if I was going to fail, it was when and how bad was the fall going to be,
Yeah.
And now I don't wake up thinking about it. Like I used to worry on every diet that I was on, is tomorrow going to be the day that I go off the rails? Is tomorrow going to be the day that I fall, And now I wake up happy, free. Like, I'm going to eat however much meat and it's going to taste great when I'm hungry. I'm going to stop when I'm not. And my body just keeps healing and putting on more muscle and getting more lean. One of the reasons I wanted to be on here too, because this is my favorite part about having a YouTube channel, because I understand the irony of a 390-pound dude sitting on here telling you how to get healthy. Like, it's a terrible, I wouldn't listen to me either. But I've been doing this since I was basically 500 pounds on here. And I'm going to be doing this for a long time because this is the most free I've ever been. And I want everybody to see that I'm not, like, I'm holding myself accountable here, holding it accountable to the audience. And I want them to see if I crash and burn. There's a lot of people rolling the dice saying I'm going to die of a massive heart attack pretty soon, and so that's one reason I want to put that out there. But I just want to get this out more in the world, because I'm not saying that everybody has to do carnivore by any means, but I will say for sure that I would love everybody that feels like nothing else is working and they haven't tried it yet to do it before they try a GLP-1 or bariatric surgery, because I think those could be so permanently damaging. My mom had gastric bypass and she's got Parkinson's right now, and I can't get enough food down her to keep her, and she's just wasting away. And I don't know how much longer she has, but because she has no stomach and she can't absorb much nutrients, she's just wasting away, And so it's just it's such a permanent hard thing,
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think, Lindy?
I know. Sorry, I'm quiet because Todd knows I always go quiet when we talk about big pharma and all that kind of stuff, because it's too much for me. I live in my little bubble here at home. Yeah. I live a little, I live in my head. Everything's roses. So yeah, I just don't want to go down that path or think about that kind of stuff. I just do me. And I guess carnivore for me has turned off all those noises. So I don't have that constant, nagging, that person on my shoulder saying, gotta eat this, gotta eat that, when's your next meal coming? All of that's gone now. And I feel very satiated with my meat, and I get that off switch and I go and live my life. And that's, that's more important to me now. Food, people, I used to cook all the time. Well, I'm half Italian. I love my pastas and, having the big banquets. Now it's like it's a chore. Yeah. I don't want to waste time cooking. I don't like dishes, and Todd hates this. I take my steak out of the freezer, stick it frozen in the air fryer.
You sound like me.
It's done. And, my kitchen is spotless. I love it, I just don't want to waste. I've spent 50 years of my life focusing on food. I do not want to waste any more time thinking about food. So this is why I have that food freedom. To me, it's not restrictive. I can just have the same meal every day and I'm happy, because it's not important in my life again. And going to events, birthdays, Christmases, all that, it is all about food, but not for me. I am going to meet with family, to meet with my friends, to socialize. And, I don't see them very often. Everyone's so busy these days that my focus is more on interacting, and having experiences and sharing the moment. And they can be eating their food. Normally I take a little platter with some, hams and bits and pieces, some deviled eggs or something. They dig into my plate over what's on the table. So, food is not sort of important for me anymore. So my relationship with food has definitely changed, and I love that freedom.
Yeah.
So, and that's, for someone that's 700-800 pounds, I think for me anyway, I needed to restrict to get rid of that food noise and to be able to get on with my life. I've never had that. And as Todd said, for 50 years, I felt like a failure. I failed lap band. I failed every diet. I was the one that was in the wrong. I couldn't do anything. I felt like a failure to my family. It really kills your soul.
Yeah.
And now I fit behind the wheel of a car. I've bought myself a car.
Yeah.
I'm out there driving. I'm being a mum to my girls.
Yeah. You're living.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, food just doesn't mean anything to me anymore. I eat it because I need to survive. I don't survive to eat.
Yeah.
To eat.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I just like this whole conversation me and Todd have been having, because you're under me and I don't know if it's the same everywhere, but I'm just looking down, you're just smiling, and so I was just like, I just want to see what Lindy has to say. But yeah, so okay, I kind of want to switch gears because I'm just very curious about this. This is something that even people in the chat are kind of saying stuff about it. And Todd, you've mentioned it, even you, Lindy, right? It was about like the food noise, right? Because obviously that term has gotten very popular recently from the GLP-1 medications that have come out. And I'm just kind of curious what you guys think about that, because I have a very interesting kind of relationship with these. Obviously, Lindy, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. But like, I have a very interesting relationship with these medications, specifically the medications, because like what I've always said, and I said this before the GLP-1s were a thing, really, right? So this is kind of a thing that I've said for a long time, is like, you should do everything that you can before you take the next step, right? So the way I see it is like, you know, a standard, like just trying to lose weight diet, trying to, you know, I guess calorie restriction, I guess would be the term, or like just trying to, you know, just doing that first. And then if that doesn't end up working and you try that a ton of times, you know, you go more extreme, I guess you could claim it, right? Where there's going to be more side effects, right? And so like, I think like the way I'd see it, this isn't a perfect analogy, but it's like, you know, standard diet where you're not having any outside help, I guess you would call it, right? And then, and there's obviously tons of like mini steps in that as far as what you are putting in your diet, what you're taking out of your diet, all that stuff, right? But then there's now I think I would say the GLP-1s, right? Where it's an injection that you do that helps you, you know, most people lose weight, or, you know, a lot of people now, especially on social media, it's like the very like, oh, to balance your hormones so you can lose weight, right? So like that's kind of like the next step. And then the next step after that would probably be like something that's like a surgery, but it's not as like what Lindy had, right? Like the lap band, where it's like, or I'm not sure if you guys remember the that balloon thing that was like popular a while ago, right? So like something like that, right? And then the next step over would be like the you know, the serious weight loss surgeries, right? Like the gastric sleeve, which is really popular now, or like, you know, like the other surgeries that are a little bit more intense, right, than like a lap band, right? And so like I feel like there's like these different steps. But with the GLP-1s, it's been interesting, right? Because the end goal for me is for people to find a way to eat that they can sustain forever, right? And that works for them. And with the GLP-1s, I think that there are definitely people that can have genuine benefits from it. And like with carnivore, right? Or with like a regular diet, it can like really save their life. But the problem for me with GLP-1s is just how popular they've become, and like how we're seeing like ads for them everywhere, right? There's all that stuff about like the Super Bowl. And so like, but I'm just curious, like, because it's just so interesting, the words that you, Todd specifically, I would say that you've used, right, is like the noise has gone down, right? That's almost exactly what I hear from people that are taking GLP-1s, right? And so it seems like there's a lot of similarities. And so like, would that be, I'm assuming I know the answer, but like, you know, would that be ever something you would consider doing? And just like in general, what are your like thoughts on it? Because I just thought it was interesting hearing the same words used, right?
Absolutely. And this is why I think GLP-1s are going to be one of the worst tragic things that have happened to people in a long time. Because look, in the carnivore world, I've been blessed enough to meet a bunch of doctors, like Robert Kiltz, Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee. There's doctors that are in the steak and butter gang, and we talk about this. And when they talk extensively on a lot of these topics. And so, first of all, GLP-1s as prescribed is unanimously looks like a disaster, because it looks like the doses that they're doing right now are overprescribed, like way too much. And so people, I mean, they're getting linked to cancer. They're getting linked to permanent gut paralysis. They're getting linked to actually, what's the word for when you grow more fat cells? There's a word for that. But anyhow, they're actually growing more, you know, their body's actually producing more fat cells. But one of the worst things is that when you're on a GLP-1, you know, and you could tell me what you think of this, especially because you're a weightlifter, and I know that you work on, you know, doing like bulks and cuts, I'm assuming.
No, I haven't done that in a long time.
Haven't done that in a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but what's interesting, and I don't know how accurate these two numbers are, but the third one they're getting really into, but they say that like on like a calorie restrictive diet that you're likely going to lose right around 66% body fat and 33% lean tissue between bone, muscle, whatever density, that while you're in a cut and a calorie deficit, you're losing about 33% lean tissue. And on GLP-1s, you're losing anywhere from 40 to 66% lean tissue. So you're getting what's called skinny fat. You're basically, and that's why they have what's called Ozempic face, if you look at it, where it's eating the collagen layer under the skin, and their skin's starting to look like, it's not just from losing weight, but the collagen under the skin's actually getting eaten up by it. And so my biggest problem with them is that if you're using so I had to use food, and I had to go to a healthier source of food than what I was eating. And for sure, I gained all my weight drinking energy drinks and soda. That's what I put my weight on.
Yeah.
That was my biggest addiction. So
yeah, I used to drink like a 2 liter of soda basically every day, pretty much. Like I would get a double gulp from 7-Eleven. It's like this big. It's like basically a 2 liter, and I would just drink that as a snack. It's like crazy to think about. Yeah,
exactly. Because we are, because that's keeping your this is what I've learned, but that's keeping your insulin up. And so you're sitting here burning glucose like crazy, but you're not burning stored fat. And then when you crash, you want that again, because that's what your body's like programmed to make energy out of, And but so that's how I put all that stuff on. But I had to go and I had to eat a whole base, whole food, animal-based diet to get rid of the noise. But in turn, I also beat my disordered eating, and it forced me to find a healthier way. Like we might not agree that on cholesterol, but we can certainly agree that a steak is healthier than a Red Bull. Right? So in the long run, a steak is going to have more nutrients and be more nutrient dense, and it's going to have a better result than a Red Bull. Where with the GLP-1s, you're going to have people that were like me 3 years ago that have disordered eating addictions up the wazoo. And then you're going to give me a magic pill that says I can also eat those things, but take more of this GLP-1 and you can keep eating those things. I would have never gotten free from the addictive side of thing. I would have never treated the root cause if you would have gave me the magic pill that would have allowed me to keep, and then in turn, in addition to not putting any nutrients in, because I would have kept eating the terrible stuff that I was addicted to, I would have then in turn been eating somewhere between 40 and, losing weight at a rate of 40 to 66% lean body mass. Like that's just a recipe for disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think like with the GLP-1s, it's very interesting, right? Because I think the Ozempic face thing is interesting. I think I don't know the exact science behind it, but I feel like part of it is just when you lose a significant amount of weight and then you continue to lose weight, your face gets gaunt. Like when I think about how I looked when I competed on stage in 2016, which I will never be doing again, I looked so different than I do now. And I wasn't taking a GLP-1. I was just too freaking lean. I had no body fat, right? And I think that's a big factor in like the Ozempic face. I think it's just people get so lean, right? And then get so lean and they get lean very quickly. And especially I think part of it is most of these people are prominent on social media. And so people know what their face looks like, right? And they've seen their face over and over and over again. And then in a few months, it looks so different, right? Again, that's just my own thoughts.
For sure.
With the GLP-1s, I would say that we agree for the most part on them. Like, I think that the biggest thing is the lack of education for the people that are taking the GLP-1s. And the issue is that there's so many different tiers, right? There's the compounded GLP-1s that you can just get at the freaking med spa, where you can also get like Botox, right? Which if you want to get Botox, that's fine. Like, whatever. That's not what this is about. But like the fact that it's just also there is mind blowing, that you can just pay for a shot of GLP-1. Like that's wild, right? But then there's the other side where it's like, And I feel bad for the people that are genuinely like, I had someone on my channel, I'm not saying I agree with everything he says because I don't, but like he lost hundreds of pounds with the GLP-1 in a very short amount of time, right? And he talks about how it changed his life and it saved his life. And so like I see that there is benefits to it, right? And it was like something that he needed. But sadly, and I think one of the biggest problems is just how prevalent they are and how they are just marketing them to everyone and anyone, right? Like you have 20 pounds. I think I saw someone in chat, right? You have 20 pounds to lose. Take a GLP-1. It's like, okay, maybe not. Maybe not the best option. And then even if someone has a lot of weight to lose, it's like, oh, just take a GLP-1 and then you'll be good, right?
Yeah.
Which it might be true. Like you might get a bunch of weight off, but it's like, what did you learn? Why did that weight come off? What did you change in your lifestyle to facilitate that? What's your plan when you're not on the GLP-1 anymore, right? Yeah. And oh, you don't have a plan. Oh, you want to be on it forever?
Ever.
Okay. Yeah. Do you really want to be on it forever? You're 30 right now. You think in 30 years when you're 60, you want to be on a GLP-1.
Right.
Okay. I mean, hey, that's your decision, right? And so it's very interesting because I'm, maybe call me a fence sitter, it's fine. But like I'm very in the middle where it's like I see the benefits. And like I've talked about, like it really does feel like the closest thing we have ever had to like a magic bullet, silver bullet. Yeah. Right. It really does. And there's so many people that really have benefited from it. And I'm not trying, like, I just really worry. I don't want to sound like the guy that's like, oh, that's not the normal way, so we can't have it. It's too new and it scares me, right? I don't want to act that way, but I also see all the stuff that you've been talking about, Todd, right? And like all of the downsides of it. And that's something that I just worry about, right? And like, it's
just
the
unknowns. We don't know where this is going to lead.
Yeah.
We don't know what the full cost of this is going to be. And so like here, like I can definitely meet you in the middle on, well, I know that we're agreeing more than we're not anyways, but even so, I can meet you in the middle. The Todd that was on that oxygen 27 months ago, had I not found carnivore, I would have, like, GLP-1s would have been better because I would have been dead without them, right?
Yeah. So
So that's a perfect example. I would agree that if that person couldn't figure out how to get someplace new, to finally get back to it, Todd 27 months ago would have needed that, and it would have probably saved my life and given me more days to at least find a better way out. So that I agree with.
Yeah.
But the problem is, in my mind, is that right now, eating red meat and saturated fat is considered to be more taboo and dangerous than taking a GLP-1 and losing 66% of your lean body mass, right? Like the diet that I'm on is considered more radical and less accepted than taking a GLP-1, which we have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to absolutely enable all of the addictions that you're already fighting. And you're probably not going to have to deal with it. And we really don't know what that looks like. And also, I think what me and you feel, I think what a lot of us feel instinctively or intuitively, is that there's no such thing as a free lunch, and none of us have ever seen it. And we've never seen a magic pill that didn't end up having mass consequences, because we see it over and over again. And that's what's so fascinating about it, is that I believe in technology, I believe in advances, but when it comes to things that seem to be designed to say, you don't have to do anything hard, you don't have to experience anything uncomfortable, you just take this pill and your problems will go away. I've never seen that not snap back with way more ferocious consequences in the end than you're just trading for today. I mean, literally what makes successful people successful, and what makes change in somebody's life, like real meaning and truth and change in somebody's life, is sacrificing today for a better tomorrow. And those pills are the exact opposite.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the way I like to think about it. It's something I talk a lot about with like people I'm working with, and just in general, it's like delayed gratification, right? Being able to don't think about what's going to make me right now happy, which would be Oreos and whatever that thing might be, right? It's like, try to make the version of yourself that's going to wake up tomorrow morning happy, right?
100%.
Because like, do you wake up tomorrow morning like, frick, I ate a bunch of Oreos, dang it, right? That's not a good feeling. But it's like, I did the thing that I said I was going to do, right? And like, I'm proud of that, right? So like, that's kind of like, at the end of the day, I just want people to find that version of themselves, right? And do what they can to make that version of themselves happy. And the way I see it is that there are many different paths to, like the end, right? There are many different paths that we're all on. And I just want people to find the path that works for them. And I want to help people avoid the path that I see where, maybe there's a couple different ways on that fork that kind of ends in the good spot. But like, I've seen the fork turn into a bunch of different forks that just go off a cliff. You know what I mean? Right. And it's like, I don't like that. Yeah, you might, but like everyone else is going to fall off a cliff, like maybe avoid that path. That's kind of what I try and do is like, hey, this is like, I just want as many people to get to the end as possible in the best shape possible, like where they are, they feel that they are able to live, and not like have too many limits on the things that they are able to do and the things that they enjoy. And that's kind of at the end of the day, like when I talk about this stuff, because I do in my videos, I talk a lot about the GLP-1s, the different like weight loss surgeries. But then on the other side of the spectrum, like the over exercising kind of stuff and like, going down that road can be dangerous as well. Right. And so it's just everyone, like you've said, right. Everyone's an individual, right? We all have to find what works for us. And my goal on my videos and like when I talk, it's like, I just want to help as many people find that path for themselves and then be successful in that eventual journey that they're going to go on. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. Well, yeah, that is about the perfect note to end this on. I think is that everybody is an N equals 1 and you got to do what's right for you. Yeah. And I just want to help at least get this perspective out there because it was so life-changing for us, like legitimately, we don't have anything to sell. I spend more money on making these videos than I ever make on like this is just our passion project because it really did. It's the only thing, when I lost, 300 pounds before, I didn't start a YouTube channel because I knew it was coming back. Like I knew it was coming back with a vengeance. And the reason why I'm here now is because it's not because I'm 300 pounds lighter. It's because I'm free. And it's because like I'm literally a different person now. And I know that this is for me, it's been the answer. Right. And Lindy found that same thing. So we just wanted to put that out there. And I knew that you'd be a fun guy to talk to because I knew that you're in it for the right reasons too. Yeah. And so I appreciate having you on. And you didn't disappoint. You're just you're exactly like the guy that I've been watching for the last 8-9 years or whatever. So that's awesome.
Well, that's good. It's good to not hear. Well, you were a massive disappointment. Please leave. No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It was really cool. Honestly, it was really cool hearing both of you guys' story. Like, behind the scenes, we were talking a little bit before the stream started, and I was able to learn a little bit about both of you guys. And so, I mean, I think that what you guys are doing is awesome. And like, obviously we don't agree on everything, but that's, that's life. Right. But like, I think what we do agree on is that you guys have saved your life. Right. And that's what matters. And I'm glad that you guys are, doing what you can to share the information that you have found and like trying to help others. So at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Right. And so, but thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And thanks everyone that's watching live as well.
I appreciate it so much. I'm going to end live here. If you want to hold on 1 second, John, and we'll say goodbye to everybody. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys on Friday. We love y'all, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.